Well, it looks like the quartering made an oopsie. My first video of the day was on a Indiana mechanic that lost her job due to allegedly having simply only her OnlyFans account, which was used to laugh at Idubbbz' insinuation that nobody would ever face any real-world repercussions for that. That video was recorded by me 3 days ago, 2 or 3 days ago. I often record ahead of time, and I send it to editors. So not every video I do is edited. So like this one, it's real time. I'm shooting at 1:38 p.m. I plan on publishing it immediately. But that one was shot before more information came out. I posted what can only be described as fake news about Idubbbz, and I'm sorry for that. Intent matters here, and I don't think anyone really thinks I did that intentionally or maliciously, although there was an interview that happened last night on Nick Recreator's live stream that makes it look like I did. I did record that video a couple days ago, so it probably would have been better received on Monday than today when more information has come out. So it's important to own your mistakes. I should have checked to see if the story had been updated, and clearly it has, which I'm going to cover now. I'm going to update the title, description, and pinned comment on that video to reflect that the story has been updated and there are factual inaccuracies in that story. I haven't decided if I'm going to just delete the video outright, but I will at minimum make that adjustment to that so everyone sees it's very clear, and link to this video sharing more of the up-to-date story. So the original story, of course, read that her colleagues watched her account at work, and when her bosses found out, they fired her. Now, is my position that the account in and of itself, you could argue that if she didn't have this account, she wouldn't have been fired. However, it isn't solely because of that account. Apparently, there's more to the story here, which we're going to cover. Don Aries Honda in Fort Wayne, Indiana. This was published last night. Fired mechanic Kristen Vaughn in her mid-February after she started posting spicy content in her uniform and at the dealership. That is a fact that was conveniently left out by BuzzFeed News. Shocking that BuzzFeed would possibly get something wrong like this. Now, again, could you make the argument that the account's existence, if she didn't have the account, she wouldn't have got fired? Sure, but there's more to this story, and I don't think it's fair to use it as the perfect example of, well, having the account was the sole reason for her termination, because it wasn't. The article continues here. Oh, and by the way, I reached out to this person for an interview 3 days ago. In fact, I'm not going to show DMs, but I reached out and asked for an interview. She agreed, and then this new information came out last night, and I have not heard back from her since. Now, that isn't to say that she knows that her narrative has been broken and that she's not doing interviews, but, one could suggest that that's possible. So Vaughn tweeted about her story last week, and now the family-owned and operated dealership is unfairly under the harsh national media spotlight, slotted into an absurd narrative that's even newsworthy for a company to fire an employee who makes these type of images in the workplace. Quote, really ashamed they had to fire me for having my page because I got down at my dealership. Vaughn tweeted on April 20th alongside of a video of herself working in a car. The tweet had 6,500 likes on Monday afternoon, and after the BuzzFeed published their sympathetic investigation into her firing from Don Ayers, several viral outlets subsequently picked up the story. Critically, however, BuzzFeed buries a remarkable 27 paragraphs into the story, the major detail that Vaughn posted photos on her account in her Don Ayers uniform and in the company's restroom, spinning its investigation into a narrative that Don Ayers did something noteworthy or wrong. The story begins by reporting that Vaughn was, quote, making amateur images outside of work using the platform, before later contradicting itself in reporting. Vaughn acknowledged to her managers that she shared some photos in her uniform and that the dealership's bathroom on her account, that's not outside of work. It's literally inside work. Human Resources Manager Jason Johnson, according to the article, denied that Vaughn had been fired over her account and said instead that she had violated company policy. He declined to specify which policy she had violated. It seems obvious, of course, that the relevant policy might have been a perfectly reasonable one about appropriate conduct in the workplace. Now, I've worked in car dealerships. They can get kind of spicy. Was she treated unfairly? It certainly seems questionable now at this point. I could understand if a car dealership wouldn't want their logo and uniform featured in these type of images. I think that they probably should have been forthright up front and saying that's why they let her go. But, it's entirely within their own rights to not address that. Now, here's the issue of the recordings, though, that are still spicy. BuzzFeed's article also insinuates the dealership mismanaged her case, depicting Don Ayers at a den of misbehavior by men and double standards. Take this section of the article, which reports on audio Vaughn recorded of the conversation with Johnson and General Manager John Watkins. In recordings, Johnson and Watkins also seem to blame Vaughn for the reaction of her coworkers. If I walked out of the shop and spread a rumor how other people react to it, that's their responsibility. But I'm still the one who yelled it. Now, note how Buzzworthy reports that Watkins seems to blame Vaughn for the misbehavior at work when he's not doing anything of the sort. To quote, Watkins clearly emphasizes that any bad behavior is the responsibility of the people doing it, and it is. But their reactions don't make Vaughn's behavior right. Johnson telling Vaughn, quote, if there were coworkers over there who had access to your page that might encourage them to approach you with unwanted conduct or comments, is not blaming her for the behavior. It's correctly explaining that the consequences, fair or unfair, of posting this type of images your colleagues can access. True. I can see how people might depict that as victim blaming, but it's not. Johnson was actually very clear about Don Ayers not tolerating this type of behavior, which Vaughn absolutely unfairly seems to have experienced from the BuzzFeed report. In one of the audio recordings made by Vaughn, when Johnson talked about her OnlyFans encouraging coworkers to make these type of remarks to her, Vaughn then asked if Johnson was concerned of a repeat of Looper's experience with the male colleague. Absolutely, Johnson can be heard responding. This type of harassment that you would find personally unwelcome, that's something I would be concerned about for you. If you glance at Vaughn's Instagram page on which she was posting stories about it, she was posting pictures of herself ostensibly at work in uniform during the same period. BuzzFeed does not mention that. BuzzFeed also does not mention that Don Ayers is run by a woman. Vaughn's tweet wasn't exactly mega viral. It didn't demand coverage. Either way, I can understand BuzzFeed pursuing the story up as a human interest piece. Although, upon learning she was posting immature pictures of spicy images to her account in her uniform and at work, you'd think they would spike it, or at least put that information in the headline or the lead. To her credit, the reporter dug into Vaughn's story and even included details inconvenient to the article's narrative. But it was still completely unfair to Don Ayers. Here's what happened. A car dealership fired a mechanic who posted spicy images of herself in uniform and on company property. She made these images at work. It's not news. It's not interesting. It's perfectly reasonable. Because of Twitter, however, the story from Indiana caught the attention of a reporter for a liberal publication in New York City who published an investigation framed in a narrative favorable to Vaughn that could hurt the company's business locally. What's most distasteful about the ordeal is that, and by the way, this is by the Federalist, about the ordeal is that culturally progressive coastal media institutes like BuzzFeed have played a huge role in normalizing these type of values between the coast, encouraging behavior most of their staffs wouldn't even personally do through the years of friendly coverage. Then, like BuzzFeed, they turn around and throw a family-owned dealership in Fort Wayne under the national media spotlight for a completely reasonable decision. Now, what have we learned here? BuzzFeed news still sucks. And I need to be careful about publishing videos after potentially new news has come out. That's my fault. I should have screened it for new information, updated the video, and it still could have been a funny romp and poke of fun at Idubbbz. So I'm sorry for posting. I'm sorry for not updating that information and checking to see if it was still current. I apologize for that. And let's be honest, I make 5 to 6 videos a day. It's going to happen from time to time. But what I can promise is that when this kind of stuff happens, I will be quick to update it and correct the mistake when it's needed. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.